How do you know it's time to end a relationship? So you've been dating for a while and, you're just like, what's going on in here? How do you know? How do you know? What precipitated your last breakup before this one? Like the good book says, for everything under the sun, there's a season and a time. So sometimes things just stop working. Sometimes things just die. And I like to say that when things die, you don't die with them. You live on because you're not dead, are you? You're alive. Here you are high. I want us to talk about ways to know for sure that it's time to call it a day with somebody you love or used to love or still love, but things are not just working out. I mean, we all have our non negotiables, very individual and personal to us. But then there are corporate things that we could all agree on that promises a very, very grim future if somebody were in a habit of doing in the name of your partner. Good evening. My name is Eric, and this is Eric Stories. Is it your first time here? Is it? I just want to welcome you, and this is for you. Thank you for finding time to hang out with me. But if you're a regular, as always, I appreciate you. I don't take it for granted. Thank you so very much. This is for you, especially a lady. A guy, gotea. But if you're a lady, alrighty. So, how do you know it's time to let go of somebody you love, used to love, or it's time for a breakup? It's a season for a breakup. That's the season. You know the way we were doing Christmas the other day, and they're like, "Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas." Okay, Merry Christmas. That was the season. If you said Merry Christmas now, you'd be looked with a side eye. Can you imagine walking into a mall and you're like, "Hi, Merry Christmas"? Guys would be like, "Hi, you just got up from a coma. It was a whole month ago." So, what are these things that we can all agree on that if your significant other does, then maybe you would require that you end things? All right? And I'm not saying that at the slightest sign of trouble, you pack and go. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that if you've been dating for a minute or two and there's a regularity of some habits that keep recurring, such as the ones I'm going to share with you, then it's probably time to call it a day. Let me know what you think. First and foremost, in my mind or in my books, when your needs are not being met. I mean, we all have different kinds of needs and requirements in a relationship. If you're being honest, we look for something. We look for something. Some of us want our emotional needs met. Maybe quality time, as most women and some men would want from their significant other, or functional requirements, functional needs that you want met in a relationship. Maybe you want them to be competent with the way they spend money. That's important to you, and you need that in a relationship. Now, if that is not being met, if they're telling their mother something that they've not told you, if there is no boundary lines and their in-laws are becoming outlaws and they're accessing your house and doing crazy things, then it can be quite a headache, can't it? And so one of the things that oftentimes would lead to a breakup is when you've tried and tried and tried to draw from the well of a desert that is your relationship, your needs, and they're not being met. That is one of the reasons, I think, that you might think and start inviting the thought that it's time to call it a day. The second thing, closely tied to the first thing, is when you are seeking these very needs, be they emotional or functional, as I mentioned earlier, from others. You know the way some people have office husbands and wife, what do they call? Office bae and office wife. So very core things in your life are now being met by these people in your office. And you're consistently seeking support from these people around you in the office. I think that is another call to, alarm. You want to sit up and think, oh, wait on a minute. So if I needed to talk to somebody intimately, guess who I call? So my colleague or my former schoolmates. You cannot call your significant other for myriad of reasons. That's another reason. When all of your family members and all of your friends are not in support of the relationship, especially in the initial stages, or maybe even into a couple of months or years in, if all of them are not in support of the relationship and with good reason, you want to rethink the relationship. Maybe it's time you ended it. You know why? Because they're not emotionally invested as you are, and they're able to see clearly what you might not see, because maybe you're just like, oh my goodness, you guys have not seen his plantain. His plantain is massive. So, yes, maybe you're confused by the plantain, and maybe he has a good job, or maybe there's a way he just gives you hickeys, and you're just bamboozled by all those things. But many times, especially family, unless they're malicious, mean well. And so if they call you out and say, there's something a bit off about this person you're pursuing seriousness with, and your uncle says that, and one of your trusted brothers says that, and your younger sister says that, then you want to pay them some mind. Pay them some mind. If nobody in the community supports your relationship, that should cause you to pause and think, and preferably end it. What do you think? Wilkister, when you feel obligated to stay with your partner because of the length of time you've been together, I hear that a lot, and I'm just like, wow. But he gave you something. You were just treating something, and the doctor says it's 50-50 that he gave you. But you're here because, oh my goodness, I think the beauty of life is that everything on the other side of fear is if you surmount fear, rather everything good is on the other side of fear. So this is fear talking. You're just like, oh, we've been together for a long time, and what will people say? Also, maybe most men or women are just like him or her. So let me just say, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe you just found a buffalo, and really the giraffe you wanted is just out in the open waiting for you to step out. And many times in life, for you to hold on to something new, you have to release the other thing you're holding. You cannot hold when your hands are tight like that, right? All right? Length of time does not always necessarily equal success. I hear that with a lot of wonder when people say, oh, they've been married for 99 years. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So was Methuselah. He was 969 years, and that's the only thing that is recorded about him. He was the oldest man alive. So length of time ain't nothing. We can be married for 3 years, and your wife. I was reading about Betty White the other day, the one who departed at almost 100, and she lost her husband and never remarried. The husband died from cancer, and she was asked, how come you've never thought about marrying somebody else? And she said, when you've got the best, why would you even meddle with the rest? And I thought that was amazing. She never ever got remarried. So sometimes you can get married and even date qualitative 1 year, and it's bomb, bomb, bomb. Maybe the guy dies or you break up, but it's worth your while. Instead of 7 years, holding. It's not necessary. So don't feel obligated. I think when you feel obligated to stay with your partner because of the length of time, you're shooting yourself on the foot. Yeah? When your partner is verbally, emotionally, and even physically abusive, surely, just seek help and love yourself enough to leave. And I know it's not easily done, as said, but just don't settle. Settling in such an abusive relationship, and we lay a lot of emphasis on domestic violence and physical abuse, and yes, that's heinous and an abhorrence, but I think we also need to invite our conversations around emotional abuse and verbal abuse and the damage they do. All right. In fact, if you read, it's recorded that the way you experience a heartbreak, it's literally akin breaking your leg. The pain you'd feel when you break your leg or you break your bone is the same pain you feel when your heart is broken. And many things that are said to us that are not pleasant break our hearts as though our legs were broken. So I think emotional abuse and verbal abuse and physical abuse are just abuse, all of them in equal measure. And you want to move away from somebody like that. You know why? Because you're special and you deserve so much better. You've gone from adoring them to tolerating them. You've lost all respect. Maybe they're bringing women over. I was once reading years ago about a city lawyer who started bringing women over into his matrimonial bed while the wife was in the house. So I think when it gets to that level, maybe it's fine to live. I'd rather live under a tree than be subjected to such disrespect, no? So self-respect has gone out of the window, dignity has gone out of the window, and you're tolerating them and no longer adoring them. That's another reason I think somebody should leave. And then when you compromise too much, especially about the things that dignify you and give you the essence of your humanity, again, you've lost your happiness, you're perpetually sad, you cry more than you laugh, you know, and you keep seeding ground. This time they've done this, and then you seed and you seed and you seed. That's another reason you want to leave. Because our essence and our worth cannot be granted by somebody else. We come worthy as we are, all right? So if somebody is taking that away from you and feeling you less, making you feel less than you are, another reason. I think finally, you look at sex as a chore, it becomes quite dutiful and routine. I mean, you dread it. They're like, today, you're like, oh God. Yep. It's supposed to be a beautiful thing, especially if you're married. And now if you dread it, you're like, what if while he's here, doing this thing he's doing, he's just injecting me with diseases? Because again, of either texts you found or things you've busted him or her doing. So when sex feels routine and very dutiful and there's no emotion in it or love, then maybe you want to pack and live your best life. Also, you don't always have to end up with somebody. As I was saying earlier, sometimes, things die. But don't die. Don't die. Live on. Let me know. What are the signs for you that it's time to call it a day in a relationship? Good evening and have a lovely night.